So we've gotten a look at the effect of both of these machines, but there's a couple other hot topics that come up whenever you're talking about atmospherics in general, but certainly with these machines. One of those has to do with air conditioning and the vent systems in the venues that we're actually performing in. So what are some things that users should be aware of, or what can we do to minimize the effect of that air conditioning on these effects that we're trying to achieve?
The answer nobody wants to hear. Turn it off. When you get to your venue, take a look up. Is there a vent directly over your dance floor? When you're on the dance floor, can you feel it? You might want to find where the air conditioning control for that room is, and during that one song, you or your partner that you're working with go over and turn off the air conditioning for that song. Once that fan gets out of the equation, you're going to be able to keep that fog centrally located. As we said, these are atmospheric machines, so they are completely affected by the atmosphere they are in. If you're outside, the wind's going to blow the effect the way the wind's blowing. Here in Florida, where we have really dense humidity, since these are based on water vapor, we get a great output here because the air doesn't want to absorb any of that water back into it. It's full. I'm from Chicago. When they say 100% humidity, we call it rain. But here we deal 100% humidity on a daily basis. You take this to Nevada in the desert, where you have 40% humidity, and both these effects will be sucked back into the atmosphere much faster, giving you a less effect. So we have to play games with the atmosphere because this is a natural occurrence with physics. So you will have to take this into consideration at your gigs. As soon as you're done with that effect, the air goes on. None of the guests ever noticed that this happened, and you've made that particular moment, those memories, that much more beautiful.
So it's about awareness. Be aware of the vents, be aware of where the control is, communicate with the venue to turn it off for those 4 or 5 minutes. If you're using this in a more continuous application, like a theatrical application or a video shoot for independent films or whatever it is, then you're going to have to deal with those environments as well. But in most, theater environments, we're dealing with that anyway. We're dealing with the air conditioning of the house, and when we're using haze and fog effects. So it's something that we're used to in those environments too. But awareness is key. Speaking of humidity, we also know that condensation, whenever you're dealing with a water-based effect, which all of our haze and fog machines are water-based, can have different effects on the actual floor itself. These are low-lying effects. So talk a little bit about what that condensation effect could be. Is it something that we have to be aware of, and does it change in different climates and things like that?
The answer to both questions is yes. Just as I was talking about humidity, that's going to affect the amount of condensation you get on the floor. Both these units are putting out water vapor. It naturally is water, so it is going to leave a little residue. Always carry a towel with you. Anybody that's used the Nimbus before knows that they're going to have to wipe up a little mess from it. The same thing with the Cumulus. I like to throw a little, a beautiful towel right in front of it where it comes out. So that'll absorb that immediate moisture where nobody should be dancing anyway. And once your effect is over, you or somebody that's working with may have to go out and touch up some places. This goes with any fog machine, any hazer. Hazers are much different because they blow things up in the air. The foggers at ground level are going to be the worst offenders of this.
Well, I was going to say, this is physics. This has nothing to do with individual machines. When you're putting water vapor out in a low-lying situation, these things can happen. But again, it's about awareness. It's about being prepared and keeping everybody safe and everybody aware of what this effect is going to do. Finally, because these are atmospherics, we know that no matter what atmospheric you're talking about, if you're putting particles in the air, there is a likelihood that alarms could be triggered. So talk about that.
All right, the Nimbus is less prone to that. It does not actually burn anything. There is no fog fluid atomized that a sniffer would sense as a fire. But in the venting systems, a lot of the newer fire alarms don't sniff the air. They actually shoot a laser or a light source through it, and it's looking for particulate matter. This could be anything from dust to baby powder. So if this effect were to be shot at a smoke detector, it's probably going to set it off. but we're on the floor. Smoke detectors are mounted high. This stays low. Chances are you're never going to set one off, although you could if you shot it directly into a venting system. Now with the Cumulus, you are burning a fog fluid. So it has a heater core like a conventional hazer or fogger. This is going to rise. So the more you use, the more chance of that rising into those sensors is going to happen. So you want to treat that more like you would any other hazer or fogger.
Now, what I also notice here is that there is a hose that comes with the Cumulus to be able to direct that output. You don't need that hose for the effect, but it certainly can help you specify where you want that effect to go. And with that, you can also mount this on a higher level. So in other words, you could have a waterfall or a downfall effect of that haze and fog. So when you're talking about alarm systems and things like that, when it comes to atmospherics, the best thing to do is be in constant communication with the venue, with the fire marshal, get them involved. And that's also additional cost to be aware of when you're talking about operation of these machines, because again, we don't know what the alarm situations are from venue to venue. We just have to be prepared to address those for sure. So those are some of the main things to be aware of as well between these two machines. Another difference between these two machines is how much they weigh. How big are they? So this one, the Nimbus, is a little bit lighter. When it's empty, it's 28.6, 29 pounds. When it's full of water, it's about 75 pounds. Now the Cumulus empty is 58, 59 pounds. Now this one is already housed in a rolling cart, which is very convenient. The Nimbus is not. Right here you see it on a cart, but that's an optional accessory, the Nimbus cart. It does not come with that cart, so you may want to think about how you're actually going to transport this thing once it's full of water and 75 pounds. So Rick, as you mentioned, the Cumulus takes distilled water and a fluid, a fog fluid. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what that fluid might be. This particular one was designed specifically for the Cumulus. It's CHAUVET DJ's LLG, which stands for low-lying gallon. In Europe, it's called LLF5. So same fluid, slightly different name depending on where you are, but this is a great fluid specifically designed to be used with distilled water in the Cumulus. Another thing to take into consideration for people is the realization that these really are different machines and they do produce different effects. In other words, the Cumulus is not meant to be an updated version of the Nimbus. They use very different technologies. The Cumulus uses, as we've talked about, different fluids and also has DMX control built into it, so you can control this from a controller. So they're different machines that produce different effects. They are both similar low-lying fog effects, but very different machines with different results. So there you have it, some good information for you to take into consideration when you're thinking about one of these two machines for your events. But either way, you've got a powerful, dramatic, dynamic, low-lying fog effect to make your events stand out. Rick, as always, thank you so much for walking us through all of this, and thank you for watching. I'm Jeff Short with CHAUVET DJ. We'll see you next time.